Good afternoon. I'm Laura Zervis, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today for the Lending Hearts cooking demonstration. I'm a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist, and I try to bring seasonal recipes to you. I try to make sure that they're anti-inflammatory and that they are not only healthy for us, but they're tasty too. And I try to point out the nutritional information in case you're not aware and answer and try to anticipate any questions you may have in case you're watching the recording and you can't be here live. So we're going to get started right away. I had to prepare one thing because it's going to be in the oven for probably all of class. Hopefully it's done before we're finished. But it is a blueberry galette. And a galette is really, it's a pie dough. And some people say it's easier than making a pie, which it is because maybe you don't have to make both crusts or you don't have to make sure that it fits the pan perfectly. But what I like about a galette is I just think they're beautiful. And last year we made one with a spinach and greens that we had found. I think we used some dandelion greens, some kale, some spinach, dill and parsley and onion and green onion, and we put that in there, and that was wonderful. But I thought, why don't we use blueberries since blueberries are in season right now? And a very simple recipe. And to brighten the blueberries, what I've done is, and I did it ahead of time just because they have to sit for a little bit, and I just left that cornstarch on top just so you could see. But anyhow, this is our blueberries, and they were fresh, and I froze them myself. And so they're from last summer, actually. So they're not fresh, disclosure. But fresh is also great. I just wanted to use these. And you can use fresh or frozen. And the galette itself is just butter and flour and a little bit of salt, just like a typical pie dough. And it's very easy. I'll show you what we're going to do here. Let me adjust the camera. Have one little problem with my dough in the corner, but I think it'll still taste okay. Well, just giving me a little bit of a hard time. I didn't have adequate time to cool it. So this is it. And I probably made it about 12, 14 inches. And I don't know if we're going to use all of this. I have on the recipe, all the recipes are online at laurazervis.com. I think I put down 5 cups. Well, we'll see if we could use this all. Hold on, I'm a little bit on my cutting board, a little on the counter. So berries are sliding. Let's just move the cutting board over while we do this. Sorry about that. Okay, we have a nice flat surface. Let's get those ones inside here. And like I said, what we did to brighten this was just to put some lemon on it too. Fresh lemon juice is the best. And these are going to cook down too, so don't be afraid to load this up. And you see we got some juice running here. I think I am going to use them all. We'll see. Because it is going to cook down. Of course, this is my end that wasn't the nicest. So I'm going to fold that one in first and then oh, there we go. I'm just going to blot this extra juice right here, just so we could roll this in. I think I just have a little bit of a low spot. We're just going to fold that up. I'm just going to work in small batches here. We're just going to fold it up. And typically I had this sit here for a few minutes, so it's not wanting to fold it in. Again, don't worry about that. This is going to cook down. This is that one piece that was giving me a hard time. That's okay. It's going to be delicious there. And I'm going to leave that juice in. And we're just going to pinch it down with our fingers. And you could make smaller ones. Lost this extra juice. This is going to. And that was just that one little end that just wasn't working out nicely for us. So we'll just kind of push it up there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wash this with our egg wash and then sprinkle some coarse sugar on there. There we go. Okay, so this is 1 whole egg and 2 tablespoons of milk. Just going to brush it on the dough. I was going to make the whole thing before class because it does have to be in the oven for an hour. But I just wanted to show you that. And I think I took the dough out just a little too soon. That is okay. Want that. Once this gets in the oven, that's all going to start to. And I have some coarse sugar here. It's hard to find this in the grocery store. You may have to order. I had to order mine online. Sometimes you could find it in a kitchen store too. Or a store that sells baked goods, baking supplies rather. Okay. All right, so we're just going to pop this in the oven. I'm just going to trim that little piece of parchment I have on the end. And just like with a pie, the galette is always going to be on the lowest rack of the oven, just because we want to get that the bottom nice and crisp. So the next thing we're going to do is our beet and arugula salad. So I wanted to get that in the oven right away, but today we are making our blueberry galette. We're making a roasted beet and arugula salad with some blue cheese on it. And we are also making a chimichurri sauce, which is delicious. And I'm using it today because it's that time of year when our parsley is coming in the garden. And speaking of our garden, if you might not see behind me, that is what we're going to make next. That is our frittata. So let me get the ingredients. We're making a scape, garlic scape, and zucchini frittata. So I'm real excited about that. So I'll get that started here. So I'll show you all the ingredients. We have zucchini, tomatoes, spinach, a cup of spinach, some fresh chopped parsley from fresh chopped basil, a little bit of parsley for on top, obviously salt and pepper. We have 8 eggs and we have about a 1/4 cup of feta. So let's get that started. And we also have, for that, we have the scape. So let's look at the scape too. So if you're not familiar with garlic scapes, we followed some of what we were talking about a few weeks ago. Garlic came in here, and these are the scapes. They're very heavy and awkward. So make a beautiful arrangement too, right? So there are several leaves on the garlic plant. Garlic is planted in the fall. It's or late fall, actually, early winter. I want to say like around October. And what we do is we plant it and then we cover it with hay all winter long. And in the spring, it comes up and it comes up with the leaves. Out of the leaves comes this, and there's sometimes a little flower on here too. So we're going to cut this part off because sometimes that is a little tough. And we're going to do the same. It's like almost like asparagus, how that part on the bottom is a little bit woody. So we're just going to use this nice pliable part here. probably even as you'll see when we go to cut them. But they're wonderful. They're almost like an onion with a lot of garlic flavor. So you'll see a lot of recipes this time of year, sauteed scapes. I'm going to grill them and put them online too, so you could see that recipe. We're just going to grill them in a grill basket and they get nice and soft, just like asparagus would. But it's a great complement to poultry, to beef, to any kind of grilled meat. It's just going to add a lot of flavor. Today, we're going to make them with our eggs. So let's just get started. I'm just going to snip a couple of these and to demonstrate. So I'm just going to snip and I'm going to grab the ones that are a little bit, and you could just smell the garlic um, coming out of here. So that's all we're going to do. I'm just going to do a few. But this also makes a beautiful arrangement to have. So let's get those chopped. And what we're going to do first is we're going to saute our zucchini with our scapes. And then we're going to pour our eggs right over. That's how a frittata is just a little bit different than an omelet. Same, they're very close. I would say the frittata is different because we really don't bother it. Once it's, we're going to put our vegetables in there. We're going to make sure they're nice and even in the skillet. And then we're going to pour our eggs over and just kind of let it cook the way it is. And then we'll probably finish it off in the oven just to make sure. We're not going to flip it like an omelet. We're just going to make sure that it's evenly cooked. So let me just give these a little rinse. Okay, and then we're going to adjust the camera so you could see what we're doing here. I'm just going to, and you could feel with your knife. It should go through pretty easily. I'm going to cut this part off, and that's where the flour was. I'm not going to use that part. And then we're going to, I'm going to keep it, our zucchini is big. This one is already starting to get a little tough and woody. If it's too woody, like you hear that, how woody it is versus here, it just goes right. I guess you really couldn't. That's kind of hard to hear it, but that was definitely a lot more woody. But we don't need a whole lot just to get the flavor. We don't want to overpower it. Just save those for later. Okay, so let's get sauteing. We'll saute our zucchini and our scapes, and then we'll add the rest. And we're also going to do our we're also going to get our beets underway too. So let's we'll put the once that gets a little warm, we'll add our scapes. So what we could do now is just we can mix our eggs in here. Like I said, I have about 8 eggs. And we're going to add our, let's just give those a little. And we're going to add our milk, about a quarter cup of milk. Standing here and all I could smell escapes. All right, so let's add our scapes and our zucchini, and then we're going to add our spinach. So let's first, I'm going to add our scapes. Let's bring that down. And our zucchini. And okay, so we'll just let this go for a little bit. And then we'll add our spinach. But to our egg mixture, we're going to add our parsley and our basil. Okay, so let's go saute our vegetables, probably about 3 or 4 minutes. And we'll give that some salt and pepper too. And I'm going to add some to our eggs. Okay. Well, we'll let that saute another minute or two, and then we'll add our eggs. I mean, our spinach. Okay, so we'll just let that go. And while that's going, we will start on our beets. So these are fresh beets from the garden. And just my camera so you could see. They're beautiful. What we're going to do is I'm going to probably put this online too. I'm going to actually cook the greens, and you could cook this red part too. It's delicious. Beets are wonderful. They're full of natural nitrates, which is really good for blood pressure. So in the short term, it's acutely it can reduce blood pressure. And if you were to eat a steady diet of them, of course it would keep it low, but it's not like you eat it one time and your blood pressure is lower. But they are good for your heart health. They are purple, so they're high in our phytocompound or phytonutrients, the anthocyanins, which are a powerful antioxidant found in all of our blue and red vegetables, dark red, purple. So we're just going to give these a peel. So I'm going to save these. We're going to boil them just like you would spinach, or saute them just like you would spinach, and then add a little bit of olive oil and garlic and lemon to that. Our zucchini looks really good in our scape. I'm going to go ahead and add our spinach to that. And we'll just give that a little stir. Here. Again, the spinach doesn't need too long. We just want it to get a little wilted. Back to the beets here. Well, that's just taking it. We just need a minute in there. And then we're just going to peel these. So I like to peel these. If you're going to boil them, you don't need to peel them, but I'm going to roast these today. So you can use a paring knife, you could use a vegetable peeler. This morning's just going to be a little bit back and forth here. Okay, and this looks very good. I'm just going to make sure that everything is even, that they're spread out nice and evenly, and they are. Show you what that looks like. And we're going to pour our egg mixture right on top of that. So we just, move our beets aside. And put our eggs over top. We're going to put our tomatoes on top of there. And these are optional. If you don't like tomatoes, obviously you don't have to use them. But I think this makes a nice mixture. And then I'm going to do a little bit of feta. Okay, and we're just going to let this cook real low for about 2 to 3 minutes. Just going to transfer it back to the stove. Just let it cook. We're not going to bother it, and then we'll stick it in the oven just to finish it. Okay, then we'll get back to our beets. Again, it's high in phytonutrients. They are a superfood. They do contain fiber. Sometimes I hear people say, well, I can't eat beets because they're high in sugar. Well, right. But it's coming from a good source and you are getting so much more with it. So you have to consider that as well. And really, so if you're going to have a serving of beets, 15 grams of carbohydrate, whatever that sugar might be, it might be like 8 grams. I would look at the total carbohydrate in this one instead of singling it out because it contains some sugar, just like with carrots too. You'd be really missing out if you didn't have these two. As long as you're having the portion size, you'll be fine within your calorie level. And of course, your calorie level is determined by your age, sex, height, and weight, and how active you are. So your age, sex, height, and weight, of course, are your basal metabolic rate. And that tells us how many calories you need at rest if you were doing absolutely nothing to maintain bodily functions. And then from there, whatever that caloric number is, say it's 10 or 12 or 1500, whatever that number is, we multiply that by an activity factor. Do you have a very active job? Are you a carpenter? Are you a ballerina? Are you a postman that works 20,000 steps? Or are you sitting in a cubicle like I am, not a cubicle, but in an office, and people come to me all day long? So when you have that kind of activity level, then you have to really make sure that you are being active other ways in your life or find ways to be active at your job, getting up and, going for a walk or delivering a memo to somebody instead of sending them an email or finding ways to incorporate activity throughout the day can really help and to negate a slow metabolism from a sedentary job. So if you have a sedentary job, it helps to have a more active lifestyle. And some people have it both ways. So you really have to find ways to incorporate that. And this looks beautiful. I'm going to let it go another minute. And then I'm going to pop it in the oven once it starts to get a little bit more done. And then I'm also going to pop our beets in there too. So I've peeled our beets. And we're just going to slice, I've missed one. And if you've never been if this is your first time joining me, you remember whenever we're cutting something like a beet or anything, we want to make sure that we find a flat surface. So we're just going to, I have my bowl here. So again, you want to make sure you have a flat surface. It's already there. Now it's not moving on us. When we try to cut round things, that's when we get into a little bit of a dangerous situation. So I guess these are probably trying to keep them about 1/8 of an inch. Would that be half of a quarter? Just because they'll cook evenly. Again, flat edge. And I'm going to get that, look at our frittata here. It looks very, very nice. And it's very much set on the bottom. So we just need to get that top set. So now we're going to put it in the oven. That goes for a little bit. Make sure our galette is doing good, and it is. Now we're going to take our beets. Let me move our other prep tray out of here and get our beet prep. Okay, so we have our beets in here, and we're just going to coat them with probably, measure it so we could see, probably 2 teaspoons of oil will work. 1, 2. That was a little heavy too. And put some kosher salt on there. And give those a stir, and let's get those on a pan. Let me see where my pan is. You could do this on parchment, or you could use a regular baking pan. I do both. Again, you want to, let me show you here, move our prep bowls. You want to make sure that you have, whenever you're doing your vegetables, and we don't have a full pan, so it's really easy, but you don't want them stacked. You want to make sure that they get evenly browned. And we do have some smaller pieces here that'll probably get done sooner, but you want to make sure that in general, most of your pieces are the same size. So let's get those in the oven, and we'll roast those for a few minutes. And our galette is coming along nicely. And so is our frittata. I'm just going to talk a little bit while we're keeping an eye on the frittata and the galette so they don't burn. So I'm just going to keep my eye, have it broil right now, just to get that top finished for us. But what's nice about the egg dish too is it's a nice staple to have on hand. The price of eggs have come down somewhat since earlier, maybe 6 years ago. So they're nice to have on hand. It's a quick weeknight meal. It's a good meal prep meal. So this is something that can be made and then divided into 4 servings and put in, some containers to take for lunch. Sometimes we forget that eggs make a great lunch or a great dinner too. And then with all the vegetables we have in here, it'll be a really nice, getting those 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. How do you get them all in? Emphasis on vegetables because of all the, they do have the lower sugar content. And, we're getting a little bit dark here. So, trying to make sure that we get those in takes a little bit of effort on our part. And it's beautiful. We have just a little bit of our oil on top, but this is perfect. That's just how we want it. So again, we'll divide this into 4. I know we could get it up after class. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be delicious. So just pull it away from the pan a little bit. And there we go. We are ready. So there is our nice dinner or meal prep lunch. And it's just this is going to be delicious. And really, this kind of reminds me of a quiche too, because of all of those things in there, except it's kind of a crustless quiche, if you will. So we have all of those wonderful vegetables in there. And you might want to be careful too. We used about a half cup, 1/3 cup of tomatoes. And you have to watch like the zucchini and the tomatoes. They are those vegetables that have a high water content. So it can, you'll notice if you ever have an omelet, sometimes they get a little bit watery from having those 2 vegetables. But this looks really nice in here. And you could change cheeses, you could do whatever you want. But typically you do see a lot of tomatoes in the frittatas. So our galette's doing well. We have our beets in the oven. Let's start on our next item here, and that is a chimichurri sauce. And I chose the chimichurri sauce and because it is so delicious and it's high in antioxidants, it's high in the B vitamins, it's high in C, there's iron. It's just a wonderful sauce. It comes together so easily. It could be made and put on like maybe grilled eggplant, grilled zucchini is really delicious. It could be put on crostini and served as an appetizer. You'll see it a lot in restaurants. It's served on steak and grilled chicken as well. So it's just wonderful. So let's, without holding us up here, let's move our food processor over and we'll begin that. It's very easy. So if you're, I try to put like right now, these herbs are really prolific in our gardens, the oregano, the parsley, and obviously basil. And what else do we have here? Basil, oregano, and parsley are the biggest ones. What we're going to do is we're going to put our herbs together. So I have my food processor here. Let me just move it over, move our prep over. And I picked all of my oregano last week and hung it to dry. So I am going to be using some of that dry oregano, but it's also nice to use fresh. So I'm going to put my parsley, and this is about 1.5 cups of really packed parsley. That is the base. So, we're always making pesto with our basil, but there's so much you could do with parsley. We're going to do our oregano. And if you're using fresh, I would use 3 tablespoons. If you're using dried, I would just decrease that. We're also going to use 2 garlic cloves. My fingers are all purple from the beets. All right, we're going to put that in there. I mean, instead of chopping it up, you may as well just throw it in here to chop it. And we are also going to do, that's it for now, and then we will stir these all together. So let's give it a pulse. Okay. Right, so we're just going to add this to our bowl here. Let's get a fresh one. I'm just going to add this to here. And we're going to add our olive oil and our vinegar. I have about 1/3 of a cup of olive oil and 1/4 cup of vinegar and about 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And that's what really gets this sauce nice too. And with the oil in here, it just changes. It gets like almost a little bit like not paste. I don't want to say paste, but it does make it more saucy. And the vinegar just really, I mean, that red wine vinegar just gives it a little kick, and the fresh peppers. It's really, really delicious. So a couple of weeks ago, we did tabbouleh, which is something else you could do with parsley. So many things you could do with parsley. It's so versatile. It's just, oh, it smells wonderful. And that is just such an easy sauce. It seems like, oh, what is in that? But it is super easy. And, it's a nice complement to a lot of your dishes, a lot of vegetable dishes, a lot of beef dishes. Let me just move this over. Out of the way. So again, parsley. I mean, and it's so reasonably priced too. Even if you buy it fresh at the grocery store, if you're not growing it at home or you don't have a farmer's market, it's a really nice. Um, it's really nice and reasonable. So let's get this turned over here and let's get our salad going. So this is what our beet salad is going to go on. We just have a little bit of arugula, and this is just really nice because the arugula is nice and peppery. The beets are going to be, very soft and sweet. We're going to add a little blue cheese to that afterwards too. We have our dressing. So today we're going to make a balsamic vinaigrette. And balsamic vinaigrette, when we make some of them, the ratio to oil to vinegar is a little bit different. When you're using red wine or apple cider vinegar, you might want to use a 3-to-2 ratio of olive oil to vinegar. When we do our balsamic, it's usually like a 3-to-1. So three servings of oil to one of the balsamic vinegar. So we're just going to add that here. And oops, sometimes I add shallots to this one, sometimes I don't. And we did our vinegar, and we're going to do a little bit of salt and pepper. This definitely needs salt and crushed black pepper. And I also did some dried basil, and I'm going to do some fresh basil. I always put basil in my balsamic. It just gives a perfect flavor. And I'm going to add some red onions to my salad. I'm just going to top those on there because we need just to have a nice little crunch too. And hopefully the beets get nice and crispy for us. And we're going to put some garlic in there as well. So again, all things that can be prepared, really, really quick and fresh, and lots of, high in antioxidants, high in nutrition. So everything, I want to make sure that everything that we put in our body when we nourish ourselves, that we don't have empty calories, that every bite counts. And that was one of the slogans for the Academy for Nutrition and Dietetics, was to make bite by bite, make every bite count. And it's just important because we only have, we have so many calories, and we want to make sure that we are choosing the best ones. And then we could go for those other things. And we are having the galette today. So, and we're just going to have smaller portions of that to use our blueberries. Okay, so I just chopping up our garlic here, and then I'll add some fresh basil. And I like to add fresh basil to my lettuce blend. And just let this in here in our dressing. And then the basil, I have washed the basil. What we're going to do is do the chiffonade. And I think we did this last week because we had something with basil in it. Let me see if I could get this red off my hands real quick. Okay. And the galette needs some more time. So we might not be able, I might have to just post that one online. So we're just going to add that crushed basil. Let me check on our beets. And they need a little bit more time. Basil in there. And we'll just Well, that's going to be delicious. Okay. All right. Let me get the check on our beets. Okay. So with our beets, just want to make sure that they are fork tender and they have a little bit more to go. So we'll just give them a little turn. They're still a little hard. Okay. So, and then today we are also going to use a little bit of blue cheese on our salad. I'm going to put them on after the warm beets because it just makes, they just get a little bit more creamy. So let me talk about the beet greens. What I'm going to do with those. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll cut this part off, like the where it was attached to the beet. And you could remove any large, if you see anything that looks suspicious. Also, we could add the beet greens. I had them sitting out, so they're a little bit wilty. But if we were to rinse them and put them in a, a salad spinner and put them in the refrigerator and crisp them up again, they'll be wonderful in your salad. So it's really a great time to eat them right after you pick them. And some of these leaves, especially, discard that one, the younger ones are a lot more tender. So some of these are pretty big. That might be okay. This one might be a little too, and then this one has all the spots on it. We won't use that one. If it looks like it's been through the ringer like this one, we'll just leave those out. But we have a lot of nice young ones. And I have even smaller young ones still in the garden right now that are really, we just pick them and eat them right then. So, but these ones are going to be nice for boiling. So let me just get these in a bowl here and we will get those washed. And it's important too that if we are going to boil them, that's no problem. If we want to saute them, probably a good idea to put them in a salad spinner first and get all the moisture off of them. So they saute really nicely for you. Or if you're going to bake them in something, you're going to want to make sure you get that moisture out of there. Again, you could eat, except for that little stem at the end, the root, you could eat all of the vegetable here, the actual vegetable plus the leaves. So it's always good to rinse these guys because they harbor some dirt in between. Okay. So we'll just save those. I'll put those in a colander and we'll get those going. And we will check on our beets, see how those are. And one thing that I wanted to do too with our frittata, let me dry my hands here. I'm going to just put a little bit of parsley on top. Now that it's a little bit cool. You could also have some avocados with this as well. So just really, really nice looking here. We'll set that here. And what I'll have to do with the galette is I'll just post those pictures on the online because it's going to be, it's a really nice thing to make. It comes out really nicely. Give our beets another minute. But like I said, when you're trying to get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, you really need to start in the morning, right? Because if you wait till dinner time to think, oh my goodness, I haven't had any yet, it's very difficult to eat them all at that point. So a couple of ways that you could do that is if you're having a protein shake in the morning, you could add the beet greens are one thing that you could add. You could add spinach, you could add kale, you could add, a half cup of strawberries, couple of ounces of maybe 2 ounces of banana. I like to add pumpkin to mine, about a third cup of pumpkin puree chilled, just to get that extra fiber without adding extra sugar like that you would get with the banana, and it gives it a nice thick texture. So that's a couple of ways. If you're having an omelet or frittata, you could certainly add zucchini, onions, green peppers, mushrooms, spinach, so many things that we could add to that omelet in the morning or your frittata. Lunch, great way to either have salads or take a side of celery or carrots or green pepper. All of those are really nice to have on hand. Obviously, a fruit is great too. If you're having yogurt, you could have yogurt and fruit, or at breakfast have yogurt and fruit. So if you could get out, three of them before dinner, that just leaves two for dinner, and that could be a salad and a side vegetable. So it can be done. If you've ever gone through, if you think it's a problem for you, try to keep track of how much you're eating, and then look at it, maybe at 2 o'clock or after lunch, how many did I have so far? So you could still fit them in. It's not too late to maybe have a bigger salad and some grilled vegetables on them and maybe a fruit for dessert. But certainly trying to, just like our water intake, it's great to drink the amount of water that we need, but you don't want to drink it at one time, right? We want to make sure that we're staying hydrated throughout the day, that we're not having like an overflow or like a overconsumption in a short period of time. You want to make sure you're having a consistent amount throughout the day to keep you hydrated. So let's get the beets out and we will put them on our salad. And now they're perfect. And we could have boiled these as well. So if it's a root vegetable, when you're boiling those, and I wouldn't say that for the leaves, it's not going to make a difference. But for the root vegetables, whenever you're cooking them, beets, carrots, potatoes, you always want to start out in cold water. So what we would do is we would put that entire beet, we wouldn't peel it, just cut the leaves off, cut down at the base there. And you would put them in cold water and then boil them till fork tender. So that's a nice way to do it. But if you're going to roast them, you have to peel them. The beauty about roasting them, and they're both both great options, excuse me. But I think that when you roast them, it helps to get the caramelization out of there, and it gets very, very sweet. So let me just see here. I'm not going to put them all on, but you could see they're fork tender. I'll just show you one here. See, it just went right through. And that's how you know right there. Um, and then while it's nice and warm, I would take some blue cheese. You could also use goat cheese if you like, or feta, but I think blue cheese goes very nice with this. Sprinkle with a little bit of this, and then we could also do pine nuts. We could do almonds. You could do any kind of, if you're looking for some extra crunch, it makes a wonder. You could add olives, and then we have, I don't want to dress this all right now, but then we have our beautiful salad dressing. So let's see, maybe we just put a small amount in maybe a smaller bowl. A lot of onions in that one. Just so we could see the dressing. Yeah, and that's just beautiful. the fresh basil in there with the balsamic just goes so nicely together. So you'll get the creaminess from the blue cheese, the sweet, the crunchy from the onion, and the pepperiness from the arugula. So just another way to get some of those, if you're not growing these, they have them at the grocery store, arugula and the beets and all of those things. Plus, you could get them at your farmer's market as well. You'll see a lot of those right now this time of the year. And then you'll still see it, but as the weather gets really warm, it makes it hard for that arugula, and it'll start flowering really soon. And you could see it again in the fall because it is a cooler, wet weather vegetable. Same with the beets; they love that cool weather. They will grow all in that springtime when you have those cool nights. And you'll have them all summer, but they do like that cool weather too. So again, all the recipes are on laurazervos.com. I'll make sure I get a picture of that galette for you. I'm sorry, it's not even close to done, but we'll get that on there. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If you need any recipes modified, I'd be happy to do that for you. So thank you so much and have a great day.